Evelyn to Philip, V-mail dated September 16, 1944. My dearest, no mail again today, and so I'm looking forward to Monday already. I wasn't going to write this evening, but don't want to skip, especially when I have the opportunity to write. I went to work this morning and worked my usual 4 hours. I felt sort of weary all morning, and when I boarded the subway, I had a recurrence of that severe pain in my shoulder. It became so painful that I acquired a throbbing headache, and by the time I arrived home, I was no good for anything. It's due in large part to the fact that I'm due again, and it seems as though I always feel this way just before the big moment. I had some lunch and hit the sack for almost 3 hours. Ruth was good enough to take care of Adele all afternoon. When I awoke, I still had a terrible headache, but I made up my mind to get up, and soon after it disappeared. I feel much better now, but I think I'd feel lots better if you were here with me. I miss you so much, sweet, and the lack of mail doesn't do me one bit of good. Due to all this, the package didn't get off, but it is all made up and will go off first thing Monday morning. Last night before I went to bed, I started on another sweater for Adele. I'm using the pink wool Dot bought for me last year, and I'm making the same style sweater for her that I made for Stuart, the one Ethel was so crazy about. Neither my dad nor I have had an opportunity to do anything about having the radio repaired, but it will be tended to first thing this week. I also have next Wednesday off due to the holidays. At least I'm getting an opportunity to rest up, which isn't doing me a bit of harm. I brought home 3 midget autos with rubber tires for Adele, the kind you give a shove and they travel quite a bit on their own. Room for a goodly portion of my love for you, darling, and even room for your Ev. Philip to Evelyn, 16 September 1944. Darling Evie, haven't written since the 13th. The reason is that I went on pass on the 14th and didn't get back till late last night. I am scheduled to go on 48-hour pass on the 21st, so this was in the nature of being an impromptu leave. My reason for taking it was twofold. Sergeant Murphy needed a pair of his trousers altered, and I had to have my insignia put on my new blouse. You see, sweet, I have been planning to spend my 48-hour leave in London, and I wanted to get my blouse fixed up for the occasion. There was quite a bit of sewing to be done on it, and even if I could have done it neatly myself, which I couldn't have, it would have taken me a couple of evenings that I can't spare. Nappy, my bunkmate, and I went into town on the Liberty Run truck, arriving there about 7:15 p.m. I called the Wolves to see what was cooking and talked to Aunt Till and Evelyn, who told me that Bert was in London on business, but was expected back that evening, and why didn't I stop over? So Nappy and I hopped a cab and rode over there. Bert was already home. We killed the evening gabbing about this and that and the other thing, had a snack of sandwiches, coffee, and cake, and when it got late, 11:30, went to the Red Cross Club to spend the night. Early next morning, we rose, breakfasted, and browsed around the town and the Castle Park for about 2 hours. It was only the second time Nappy had been to town, and he was all eyes. He had to see everything in all the shop windows, and after some altercation between us, talked me into going into the Woolworths 5 and 10. Yes, they have them over here, to browse around. While browsing, some sweater instructions caught my eye. I got to thinking how nice you would look in a few of the styles, and picked out some of the most attractive ones to send along to you. They are a bit too bulky to include in one letter, so I'll send them separately in my next few letters. Hope you like them well enough to make them, sweet. After Nappy had his fill of looking around, we went across the street to Bert's shop, where I proceeded to buy the following: an 8th Air Corps patch, shiny brass buttons to replace the plastic ones on my blouse, service ribbons, Good Conduct, ETO, and Pearl Harbor, a hash mark, 3-year service, overseas stripes, one for each 6 months, and the 8th Air Corps brooch for Mom, which I am enclosing. Then Bert gave us the address of a tailor who is a buddy of his. He's a fellow in his middle 30s, has a wife about the same age, and 3 kids, Helena 7, Carol 3, and Butch 4, all good-looking and smart as whips. Mr. and Mrs. Marks received me as a lanceman and went out of their way to be accommodating and friendly. While Mr. Marks was busy sewing my stuff, Mrs. Marks engaged me in conversation. Nappy noticed a few British-style battle jackets laying around, and we proceeded to try them on and buy them. This type of jacket is much sought after over here because they are neat and dressy, and I was tickled to be able to get one. Mr. Marks wanted me to accompany him to the D's, where there was a card game scheduled that night. I was just itching to go. I can just hear you saying, "I'll bet you were." But Nappy doesn't play cards, and I didn't feel right about deserting him, so I told Marks another time. Nappy and I went to the movies to see his Butler's Sister. Yes, I know I saw it before, but this is one of the best she ever made, and I enjoyed it immensely the second time. For that matter, I guess I could see that particular picture a 3rd and 4th time and still enjoy it. Lady, I guess you know when I like something, I do so wholeheartedly, and I sure do like Deanna Durbin. She pleases both the eye and the ear, and as far as I am concerned, very much so. Which reminds me, I never did get around to telling you how much I enjoyed Gaslight, did I? It is a brooding, suspenseful, dramatic sort of picture that gives full scope to the unlimited and truly wonderful histrionic abilities of both Boyer and Bergman. They are altogether vital, alive, real, and, age 2, convincing in their respective roles. For once, Bergman, the incomparable Ingrid, has a foil worthy of her talents in Boyer, who is simply superb in this. In a word, a picture to be seen and remembered. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. After the show, we groped our way through the moonless night to the Marks place. We found Mrs. Marks in the living room listening to a radio mystery while she worked on a jacket. Having about an hour to kill before we had to start back, we settled down to listen to the radio. Soon everyone was volunteering their opinion of the murderer. Not to be outdone, and having good reason to believe that the guilty one was the maid, I also volunteered my guess. 2 British soldiers had dropped in to visit, and they added their expressions of disbelief to those of Nappy's and Mrs. Marks, who were convinced that the murdered woman's husband was the culprit. Of course, Chippy, you have guessed the outcome. It was the maid, all right. Mrs. Marks served coffee and cake, and we talked small talk until it was time to go. We walked about a mile to the railroad station, where we boarded the truck that took us back to camp. On the truck, I ran into Red, who was returning from a pass in London. He has a gal there who must like him very much, because he confided to me that she virtually proposed to him. Unfortunately for her, Red isn't having any. And that just about covers that. This morning, on reporting to the orderly room, I hoped there would be some mail awaiting me, but no such luck. Nary a one from anyone. There were a few things to be done, just enough to keep me occupied. This afternoon, there were a few other things to take care of. I started this just after supper. It is now just 7:50, and I'm just about written out. The picture at the base theater is Cabin in the Sky, one I saw a long time ago. I haven't quite made up my mind whether I want to see it again or not. So long for now, baby. The sweater I am enclosing is my favorite of the four. I think it would look swell in pink with black trimming or black with red trimming. How about it, sweet? Will you please your old man by making it? Give the brooch to Mom with my love and my earnest wish that she wear it in the best of health. One of these days I'll find something worthy as a gift for Adele. Until then, just kiss her for me. My love to all, but especially to you, my darling. I love you, baby. Always your Phil. Jack Strongman to the Strongman family. Email dated September 16th, 1944. Dear family, it's been 2 weeks since I last heard from any of you. To be frank, I'm worried. I do so hope that you are all in the best of health. I'm still in the best of health and getting along okay. It seems that the mail is being held up for some reason or another, and I hope that tomorrow I shall receive a letter or letters from you. I really have nothing of interest to write about, as nothing of interest ever happens here. A reply to my letter to Phil, which I wrote about a month ago, is still to come, and I am very anxious to hear from him. I've mentioned in a previous letter that I wanted a picture of Phil, for he's the only member of our family of whom I don't have a picture of, so please oblige. We are having our laundry done for us again, and believe me, I'm glad. Gloria wrote me that the rumor about Harry Wyman was only a rumor which was passed on to her by Rose Drucker. Well, folks, time to hit the mattress. Yes, we still sleep on those things. My best to all. Love, Jack.